Hello, good people, and welcome to Happy, Healthy, Whole with Sharea. I am Sharea, and if you haven't already, like and subscribe to our channel. I'm going to ask you to do me a favor. If you actually like what I'm sharing or talking about, please feel free to share it with your colleagues, your friends, family, all those who might benefit from our conversations here on Happy, Healthy, Whole. Anyway, today we're going to finish up our discussion on they. And this week I wanted to talk about why do we give power to the they? So last week I gave you a definition as to who they might be and who we might define as they. But I want to really talk about why we give so much power to they. The power given to they often is about a social dynamic around negative thinking or around the psychology of humans thinking that people are judging them and or having a judgment against them. And so here's the reason why we give so much power to them. The first reason is social acceptance. The reality is that many humans are inherently in need of belonging and accepting that or acceptance into a social group, that your friends, your family, the people that we identified last week, your friends, family, colleagues, your social media interactions and exchange, we are conditioned to want to have social acceptance, um, and the opinions and reactions of others can often influence our decisions to ensure that we remain in that group. So for example, if I am a Okay, for example, if I am a Black woman who is a business owner, and what I want to do to, be accepted amongst other business owners is to say that my business is doing well and these things are happening and these great things are happening. And then I don't leave space for anyone to help me if I'm actually struggling, right? And so what I'm trying to do is be accepted as this business owner who's doing awesome and doing great when I really may need support and connection and friendship in my journey. But because of this social need to be accepted, I'm willing to tell a story that isn't true or possibly isn't true in order to just be accepted, even if it's just a facade. Another reason is fear of judgment. People fear judgment. People often fear negative judgment or criticism from others. Those others are defined by who we have placed value into, and sometimes we put a high value on the outer world and who is going to love or care about us. And so the desire to avoid disapproval, disappointment can lead us to be somewhat critical of ourselves and have this expectation of a negative reaction from the groups in which we share. So really that social acceptance, that fear of judgment becomes two of the areas of why we give the power to the they. Another one is we're just socially kind of learned these behaviors. So it's our social norms and expectations. And really what this means is that we can be a powerful force, but if individuals don't see that, we sometimes tend to criticize ourselves and also criticize those people who may not see it. And so what happens is, in order to kind of create harmony within ourselves, we have to give power to the they by saying they don't get me, they're going to be mad, they're jealous, right? So then we have these negative reactions to even not being socially accepted or socially seen for what we might be wanting to impact. Another thing is reputation and image. The reality is that we all create what we consider our credibility, our images. People care about how they are perceived about others. You can say you don't. However, most of us get up each day and have something that we can contribute to a social norm that we've accepted, to even how we put ourselves together. It could be our clothing, our hair, it could be our outfits, our way that we exist in the world. All of those things become our reputation and our image. And then as a result, sometimes we give power to the they by trying to maintain a positive reputation, a positive within my personal or professional or even social groups that I'm a part of. And so if I'm going to use the example of being a businesswoman again, I'm going to try to make sure my business presents well. I'm branding my page and my different social engagements. But if I'm thinking about from a personal perspective, think about how often we want to have credibility with those we love and care about. We want people to trust us. We want people to be vulnerable with us. Those are all acceptable emotions. And so, therefore, sometimes what we don't realize is that same positive desire can turn into a negative when we're not receiving and or assuming that people are going to think negatively about who we are or what we are. Um, I think another reason, and I'm trying to keep these under 5 minutes. That's my goal lately. Another reason why I think that we give so much power to the they is our close relationships matter. And so we want to have influence in them. So the opinions of our friends, families, and significant others can carry a lot of weight, not because it's wrong, but because we want approval and we want them to be proud of us, to care about us, to feel like they are invested in our identity and our reputation and image. And so what happens is when we don't get this, we sometimes go into the they as a negative in terms of not approving us and judging us, going back to that. And then cultural conditioning. When we think about cultural conditioning, in many cultures, there's a strong emphasis on community and collective opinion. So the reality is, when we get to look at the world related to social media and politics and all the things going on, there is a all or nothing form of thinking that happens, which means that when a person believes something, they want everyone to believe it. If a person doesn't believe something, they don't want anyone to believe it. And so then they have this need to make sure that other people within their group maintain that same social conditioning. And so what happens is, say, for example, I want to break out. I don't want to think the same way that the group that I've joined or been a part of for all these years think. What happens is that I go through this kind of disconnect with what I believe and who I am with what people are going to think about these changes that I've made in my life. We see this when people are trying to explore religion. We see this when people are trying to explore moving into different places or going to different parts of the world where they may not be the traditional member in that community. So what we see is that this person has this disconnect around what they want and desire versus what people will think about what they want and desire. And then last but definitely not least, fear of consequences. Sometimes the reality is that and the reality is that the reaction of others can have a tangible consequence, such as losing your job, a relationship, social standing, which means that in some cases, they, depending on who you define them as, actually do hold weight in how you will have consequences or not in life. So, example, if I'm going to go into my boss's office and curse them out and then expect to walk away with a job, then I'm going to have an issue. It's not that they were judging me, it was that I didn't stay within the boundaries of that social expectation. And as a result, there's a consequence. Now, that doesn't make it right or wrong, but the potential impact amplifies when the power is given to they, which means that when you are aware of the value of who this person or they is, it allows you to know what the value of how you interact with them, how you deal with them, how all of those things matter in your exchanges with them. And so recognizing these factors can help individuals reflect on why they might be giving away so much unneeded power to the they. Consider ways of balancing your external influence with their own value. Make sure that you actually understand who you're talking about when you are saying they and how much power you're going to give that opinion and judgment and or reaction towards you in the right space, right? Because as much as we don't want to believe, there are consequences to having negative reactions to our behaviors, our encounters, our exchanges with others. However, it's also important to remember that you have to balance that with understanding that they don't matter. Be well.